Okay, welcome again, everyone. Today, Silvana and I want to talk about NVivo 14 and the new features. So the plan for today is that I will start just with a general introduction of what NVivo is and how you can use it for your qualitative data analysis. And then we will talk about the new features in NVivo 14, which is the option to collaborate with researchers in real time, and also the option to import data from Citavi to then analyze it in NVivo. Obviously, we hope to be able to answer all your questions in the end, but we will also try and have a look at the chat throughout the session. Okay, so NVivo is a software for qualitative data analysis, and there are different products or add-ons that you can use and add to NVivo to facilitate the whole research process. So any research project usually starts with a literature review because we need to find out what the current state of art is, what studies have been published about our topic already. Maybe want to learn more about the theory and the method that we are using. So we typically start with a literature review, and Citavi is one of the tools that can help you there, which we will learn later today. Now, in the next step, we usually collect our data. In an NVivo, you can really import different types of data. So you might be doing interviews, you might have a survey with open-ended questions, maybe you're doing a document analysis of some sort, so you might have reports, PDFs, news articles, whatnot. Now, if you are working with interviews and you have audio and video files of your interviews, you might need to transcribe them. In NVivo, there are different ways of how you can do that. Either you use the built-in tool to manually transcribe your audio and video files, or you use the add-on NVivo transcription, which is an automated transcription assistant, which will automatically transcribe your files. It's available in 28 different languages. And of course, we want to spend more time analyzing our data versus transcribing them. Speaking of the analysis, this is probably the main part in the research process, or the part where you spend most time with, and this is what will happen in the NVivo desktop version. So in the NVivo desktop version, we will find different tools to manage, analyze, and visualize our qualitative data. Now, if we work in a team and not just by ourselves, there are also different strategies to collaborate with others. And today we will see how it is possible to actually collaborate in real time with other researchers. Obviously, at the end of any research project, we want to publish our results in a report or in a journal. So in NVivo, it's possible to export data or results in different formats at different points of the project. NVivo supports a wide range of data. So, of course, regular Word documents and PDF files are, of course, something that is supported if you have your interviews or your reports in that format. But if you're working, for instance, with surveys with open-ended questions and would like to have a closer look at the open-ended questions, you might be able to import directly from Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey, or just also use an Excel file to do so. If you want to analyze social media data, this is also possible. You can import this into NVivo as well, for instance, from Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And of course, if you do your literature review, and you can also bring in your references, and we will see today how this looks like if you are using Citavi. Now, the idea overall is that in our NVivo project, we have all the data, all the files, all the sources that are relevant for our research project. And then we have one place where we start analyzing and organizing everything and making sense of it. NVivo is methodologically agnostic. This means it works with a variety of research methods, and you can have a qualitative data analysis or also a mixed methods design. Both would work. Now, what you see on this little screen is that you can start with very, let's say, simple things. As soon as you have imported your text-based data, you can maybe look for word frequencies to create a word cloud, or look for specific words in a text search to see how often a word appears, or how a phrase appears and how it's used in your data. And then the more work we do in NVivo and the more information we add to our project, the more complex our visualizations and queries can get. So maybe you have coded your data. I will talk more about codes in a second. And you were looking for everything that people had to say about tourism. And then you might be able to compare what maybe people of different ages had to say about this topic. So let's have a look at how this can look like. So here I'm on the start screen of NVivo, and I will simply use a sample project that I find here. Let's give it a few seconds to actually open for us, and then I will show you around in that project. But while we're on the start, there we go. Okay, it was faster. So we don't need the tour. I will skip this. In this sample project, we have different data types, so it's a really nice example for us. So basically, we have three parts here in the navigation view. We have the import section, which is where we import our files. As you can see here, there have been folders created under files for the different types of data. Then the other section that we have is the organize section, where we will create our codes and find our cases. And then lastly, we have the explore part, where you can store queries that you want to run again later. Let's have a look at our interview folder here. Here you see that they have imported or worked with different types of interviews. The first one here is Barbara's interview, which is a regular Word document. This is how it looks like when you work with regular Word or text documents, but you could also have your interview imported as a video. And let's click on Betty and Paul just to show you how that looks like. So if you work with videos, you will have the video here. You will see the time span or waveform up here, and then you can either create or import your transcript next to it. Now, one of the main things that we have to do, no matter which qualitative method we are using, we have to read, listen, and carefully, observe our data to familiarize ourselves with it in the process of the analysis. So one thing that you might be doing in the beginning is just reading through your interview transcripts. And one thing that you can do right in the beginning, if there's something that stumble across, or you think, oh, I want to take a note, that's definitely possible. At any point in your material, you can create annotations. Now, annotations are these little speech bubbles up here. So if you found something here that's interesting, you just add an annotation and take a little note. Yeah, then you will get a blue highlight and a little speech bubble symbol. But of course, the annotations are just the beginning of the analysis. The main part of the analysis usually happens in coding, creating codes and coding our data. So what are our codes? Codes are themes, topics, sentiments, anything that is relevant really for our research project, and also is relevant to answer our research questions, right? So in this example that we have here, we have a list of thematic codes like economy, infrastructure, etc. So these codes describe what topics or themes the interview participants were talking about. So just to give you an example, so this code here, community change, let's have a closer look at it. For codes, I would always recommend not only, of course, you have to give them a name, but to use the description field. The description field in a code can be used to describe the idea behind the code, to also note down the rule for coding. And this will be relevant, especially if you want to work in a team. If you want to work in a team, you have to be precise about your understanding about a certain code so that you all code similarly, or as similar as possible with the same code. You can also add colors to your codes if this is something that you would like to do. Now let's take a closer look at one of the codes. This one here, balance, for instance. We can see with the numbers here that there are 6 files and 16 different references coded. So we have coding in 6 different files. So let's have a look at how this looks like. if I just open this code right here, this one is quite interesting because what we see is the first coding comes from a document, Barbara. So we have some coding that is just text data, which we can read through. We have some other documents here that are coded as well, where we also have pieces of text. So we could now go ahead, read through everything and make up, our mind about what everyone had to say about balance. Now, what's interesting about this code specifically is that we also have coding directly in a video, the one from Betty and Paul. So what we find here are some numbers that are actually the timestamp of the coding. So if I want to see that or listen to that, I will just click here on the video tab, hit play, and then it will jump right to the place where Betty is saying something about balance. Now, you might be wondering, okay, that is great. I can see that something is coded, but how do I code at all? So let's go back to Barbara's document here. Let's get more space. So how do you code? Obviously, there are different techniques. If you have created your codes already, you can use a drag and drop coding either to the list view. This is what we call list view. You can also switch on a code panel and just take a piece of text that you want to code and just drag and drop it into the code that fits. If you have a lot of codes, or like here where you have really created a coding structure with a lot of different levels, drag and drop coding might not be the ideal way to go. So instead, what you can do is simply do a right click on the selected segment, click on code selection, and then select either one or even 2 or 3 codes that fit here. Or if you realize, oh, none of the existing codes fit, I need to create a new code inductively, that's also possible. Okay, and then of course you would like to see what you have coded in a document. For that, we typically switch on the coding stripes, which you will find on top here. Let's see. So here, this is Barbara's document, and we see everything that has been coded so far. So here, this part has been coded to infrastructure just right now. Let's see if we find something else. There's more about infrastructure down here. Here we have some segments where different codes overlap, which is also something that can be then queried. So which topics do overlap, etc. So this is what we see here. Now, coding is one big part that we do in our analysis. And another key item that you can use in NVivo to enhance your project, I would say, is to work with cases. Cases are another key project element in NVivo. And cases are basically our units of analysis. In a lot of cases, or in a lot of projects, these are simply our interview participants or survey respondents, but you could also have cases based on companies or organizations. Now, in our example here, we find our list of interview participants here, and each interview participant is created as a case and gets this little suitcase symbol, which I always find very fitting. So you see every case holds the files basically that belongs to one person. So Barbara has 2 files, an interview and answers from a survey that are relevant. And on top of that, in her case properties, I can now see, get a little bit more information about Barbara. So here we have some attributes and attribute values that describe this person, Barbara. So we learn that Barbara is from the community Betty. She's 40 to 49 and female. So this type of that background information can be really good for you if at a later point in time, you don't just want to look at the code balance like we just did, but you want to see, okay, what did maybe men had to say versus women, or people of different age or from a different community. So all of this is possible in NVivo. However, I'm looking at the time and just want to show you one more quick thing before I hand over to Silvana. So there are multiple explore options that you have, but one thing that you can do right in the beginning when you work with text-based data is the text search, which will also allow you to find the correct parts of your data where you maybe want to take a closer look at. So the text search can look for specific words or phrases in your data Here I want to look for the word people, but I don't want to look in all my files. I will also only look in one specific folder, which is my interview folder. So I want to see what all my interview participants had to say about people. So I run the query, and it will come back with a list of all the documents where the word people is featured and how many times. And I can also display a word tree, the word people in the middle, and then maybe I see that, aha, there were a few people talking about local people, which could then, for me, be another reason to go a little bit more into detail and see, okay, what exactly did they say about local people? Okay, but I will stop right there because there are more exciting things that we want to look into when we now learn about the real-time collaboration in NVivo. So, Torgim, you might hand over the screen to Silvana.
Okay, Marit. So, Silvana, here's your screen.
Hi, everyone. I'll just do the slideshow. Right, so is that correct? You see my slide?
Yeah,
here.
That's perfect, Silvana.
Great. Okay, well, thanks, Marit. Thanks, Torgrim. So what I'm going to talk about is what's new that's come out with NVivo 14, and that is NVivo 14 with new collaboration cloud. So this is quite revolutionary. I think it's what our customers have been asking for a very long time, is the ability to be able to work together in a team in real time, simultaneously, and you can just eliminate the whole merge process. No need to merge. So what happens is that, and you can work with team members who, maybe a couple of team members are working on a PC and others are working on a Mac. Doesn't make any difference. You can all work together on the same project. And the way it works, as this diagram shows, is that one team member is the sort of project owner. They might create initially a structure, maybe add a few interviews, maybe have a few codes, or they might already have decided on what their coding frame is. They don't have to. You can work very emergently, but whatever they start with, they upload it to the cloud, and then all the other team members, what they'll do is after they upload it, they'll assign which team members can work on this particular project. And then those team members will get a message and they will be able to clone. It's called clone. So they'll clone that project. And what that does is that it downloads a copy of that project, which they save on their computer, but they'll actually be working on the cloud project. But the reason why they save it onto their computer is so that if for some reason they have to work offline because they're traveling and they're in an area where they don't have an internet connection, they can still work on that project. And when they do get back an internet connection, then their work will be automatically synced back up to the project in the cloud. So there's one project in the cloud, no need to merge. You can work in real time, which is what we'll be showing. Just to let you know that we use, it's very secure collaboration. The cloud projects are hosted on Microsoft Azure. We have server locations in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, and in Singapore. So therefore, it will, automatically choose whatever server the project manager is near. So I'm in the UK, so I'm obviously using the European server, and it's also GDPR and HIPAA compliant. And as I mentioned, you can collaborate on any operating system. So just as I said, you can be working on both, have team members working on both Windows and Mac with this. There are some roles, and this is just briefly, as I said, there's a project owner. So the project owner is the person who's purchased NVivo Collaboration Cloud. The other team members don't have to have purchased it. They just need to have NVivo 14. And they're the ones who upload the projects. They're the ones who can assign or remove team members from the projects. They have the ability to edit documents. Collaborators don't have that ability. We did that deliberately so that we avoid conflicts, and they can create, delete, merge codes, do anything. The collaborators can clone projects, they can import files, they can import audio files and video files, for example, and access NVivo transcription and automatically sync the transcription to those files. They can create new codes, they can code to new or existing codes, they can create new memos and add memos. So that's just some of the basic things that differences between project owner and collaborators. Right, so on for the demo. Right, so I am just going to go into NVivo. And so just checking that you see NVivo on my screen. Yes? Great. Okay, so what you see here is I've already created a small project. I created I've imported 3 documents here. It's in a folder called Interviews. I've also created a couple of codes here. I've done a little bit of coding. So what I want to do is I want to share this project with Marit, you're in Germany, aren't you, Marit? All right. And to do that, so it doesn't matter where Marit is, you know, she could be in the States, she could be in Australia, we can work together. So I will just click on the share button. I will click upload project. And it's very interesting that it always kind of stops at 19%. It's quite funny how it does that, and then it goes. So it uploads the first 19% and then the rest. So just wait, and yeah, you see what I mean? It's done now. So now this project is up in the cloud, and you can see now the Manage Team button has become active. So if I click on that, and you can see here, there's a number of people who I work with, but I'm just going to assign Marit to this project and add her as a user. And if I had not already set up Marit to work with me on this project, I would simply press this button to go to my subscription to NVivo Collaboration Cloud, and I would, in another window would open, it would go into that portal for the subscription, and then I would just type her email address there and add her as a user. And once I've done that, then she will appear in this drop-down list. So yeah, so if you set up who's going to work before in your subscription, it's easy, but if you forgot to, you can always do it from within NVivo by just clicking on the Go to Subscription button.
Silvana, are there any limitations on the number of collaborators you can add?
No, but obviously the limitation is how many seats you bought for your subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the limitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Marit, shall we switch screens so we see your screen so we can see how you can clone the project?
Yeah, let's try.
Okay, I will switch screen to you, Marit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And I'm actually going to work with Mac this time around. So here is my NVivo 14 for Mac. On Mac, you find your file cloud projects. Oh, there we go. Just a slight delay. So here is the project that, sorry, I'll make this a little bit slower. Here's the project, the Alfasoft demo that was just shared with me. So if I click on it, I will save it on my computer, and I have to give it the exact same name and title. I'll just put it into my NVivo projects. Now when I click create project, this is when it's cloning the project, and then it just takes a few seconds until it will automatically open. So there we go. And now I have this project open. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you. Okay, so now I can access all the data that has been shared with me. So in the interview folder, I see the files that have been uploaded, and under the codes, I see the codes that have been created so far. So what I will be doing, and also you see whoever created this by looking at this little part here where we have the user initials.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I will do is I will just add another file. So I will just import another document, maybe one of these interviews here. And when I add it to the project, Silvana should be able to access it as well. So here I click done. Here's the new interview that I added. And I will also create a new code. So I click on codes. Maybe I create a new top level code for tourism. Oops. No. That's when you don't speak the language and are nervous. So I use water quality instead. Both should work fine. Sorry. Okay, so click done. And again, I can now also code. There are different ways how I can code in NVivo for Mac. Just like in NVivo for Windows, you could either use a drag and drop coding, or you can also use the right-click coding. So just do a right-click, code selection to existing codes or cases, and then I can pick one or even two codes that I think are fitting here. I click select, and just to make sure that it worked, I can also switch on the coding stripes, give it some colors, and here we can see that these parts are coded in this document. Okay, I think that was my part. Let's see if this has synced to Silvana's project.
Still, there's a delay. So while it is real time, there's a delay that's dependent on your internet connection. So
which we are heavily using right now.
Yeah. So so it hasn't come through yet. But if you want to do a bit more coding, yeah, and just so we can actually just hopefully we will come through. I'll let you know when it comes through.
Yeah, or maybe I will just code a little bit more here just so that you can see. Maybe to my new code. Or maybe, Torgrim, if you have any questions that are fitting right now while we're waiting for the syncing.
Yeah, Marit, there are a few questions here.
Yes.
I think Silvana, the GDPR privacy, I think Silvana answered that with one of her slides. It is GDPR compliant. It says is Collaboration Cloud included in the NVivo 14 or is it an add-on module?
Yes, it's an add-on. Yeah, it only works with NVivo 14, so you need to have NVivo 14, and then it's an additional add-on in the same way that transcription, NVivo transcription is an add-on.
Yeah. There's also a question: is it possible to work with different operating system, Windows and Mac? And I think you have answered that because Silvana is using Windows and Marit is using Mac. So it's a big yes, I guess.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yes.
I would just add a caveat to that, which is that with this first release and Collaboration Cloud for NVivo 14, that Mac users can just be collaborators. They can't be project owners. But when Service Pack 1 comes out, which is due to come out in, I think, around June, around that time, then Mac users will also be able to be project owners. So it's just with the first release, it's just that the Mac users can only be collaborators, and and Windows users can be both project owners and collaborators. So yeah, so your code for water quality has come through.
Okay, great.
And
So,
and
Torgrim,
so
can you?
right. So so Torgrim, if you can show my
sure,
screen.
I can switch screen to you, Silvana. Here you go.
Right. Okay. So right. So you can see here now that Marit, here's her initials. You know, she imported the interview from Maria and Daniel, and that water quality. So you can see by her initials here. Yeah, she created that code, and you can see there's coding. And if I go into Barbara's code here and show, what I'll do is I can show coding stripes by the users. So you can see that's Marit and me. And so I can see that in the Barbara transcript. Yeah. So you can see here SDG, that's me coded, and that's Marit coded that like that. And you know, if I want to see, you know, what did I code? What code did I code it to? I can show the substripes. So I coded that for community, and the same thing with Marit. I mean, I could do that, or I can just hover over and I can see she coded that bit for water quality like that. So yeah, so you can see how we can work together and obviously see how each other's code simultaneously, and we can actually do the coding comparison, although I can see that we don't have anything in common. But if we did, I mean, if we were doing this for real, you know, I could see, you know, where, yeah, I'll just do all codes and run it. And yeah, so you can see here that so therefore on Barbara's, I think there is a little bit of agreement of what, yeah, but there's not any sort of, as I said, we're not really, the reason why this is all agreement is because we both didn't code it. But you can see here that if we did this properly, if this was a real project, that we could actually check and compare our coding. So that's really about the collaboration in cloud. So, I mean, you know, both of us can run queries, both of us can write memos, do what we would normally do in an NVivo project, but we're, as you can see, we're working on the same project at the same time. And while there is, you know, a delay before we see each other's work, I mean, it's, you know, just a couple of minutes, and it depends very much on your internet connection, how long that delay is. But, you know, basically the great thing here is that no more merging, and also we can work simultaneously with colleagues from all over the world, and the project is safe up in the cloud. And the other important thing to remember is that if you don't have an internet connection and you have to work on the project on your laptop or computer without internet, you can do that. And then when you come back to an area where there is an internet connection, the work you've done will automatically be synced to the cloud project, and then you'll see the cloud project and continue to work on the cloud project with everyone else's work. Okay, so I want to move on to the next new thing that we have with NVivo for NVivo 14. So therefore, I just want to just go back to this. This is the Citavi integration. And right, so okay, so Citavi, now just to let you know that after this presentation, there's going to be another demo just on Citavi. So I won't go into great detail about Citavi, but it's both a reference management software and a writing tool, in fact. And just to start with the usual challenges that people have when they're doing their literature, I mean, first of all, there's information overload when you're starting because of the sheer volume of research papers and articles and reports that are published, so it makes it really difficult to stay current. And, you know, and also all different types of literature, you know, journals, books, conference proceedings, gray literature, all that stuff. And so therefore it's hard to access and relevant resources. And also more and more research now is interdisciplinary, and while you might be pretty knowledgeable in your own area, it could be hard and challenging to locate relevant information in different subject areas from your own, but that's relevant to your research. And once you've done that, the important thing is synthesizing information. And that's the real challenge, to integrate a diverse range of literature into coherent argument. And, and you have to be evaluating the sources as you go along. And obviously at the end of the day, you have to put it all together and write up. So, I mean, these are really heavy challenges. And Citavi can help you with all that. And first of all, in terms of searching, so, just like any other reference management software, you have access to the different databases. Either you can access ones that your university or institution subscribe to, or you can use, there's a little ad, well, it's part of Citavi. It's called the Picker, where that's attached to your browser, and you can just grab any article or any web page for that matter, but also reference management databases, and just immediately imports it into your Citavi database. But the thing is that you actually do more than that within Citavi, because you can start exploring that data. You can start looking at identifying quotes that you might want to use. You can comment directly on it, and and the important thing here is synthesize. You can start an outline for your paper and actually do the basic tagging of what quotes would go in what section, or what summaries of quotes and section, and it actually can create an outline that then you can access from Word, and it will actually will give you an outline that you create in Citavi, but with all the quotations, your summaries, etc., all in place, and you just have to write around it. So it's pretty cool, and you'll see more in the next presentation. And what's great about having them together, as you can see, there's some overlap. So you can start, you're organizing your material in Citavi, and you're also organizing your ideas about it, and as I said, creating an outline. So you're doing the first level tagging or coding, but then now you can bring all that into NVivo and use NVivo's tools to really get into depth in terms of looking at patterns in the literature. And of course, if you have in NVivo your empirical data, then you can combine the analysis of the literature with analysis of the data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into Citavi, which is here. As I said, there is going to be a demo after this, so I'll just briefly just show you. You can see here under references, so here's a list of my references here. And some of them, you can see where there's a paperclip, I actually have the PDF, so you can see the PDF there. And I have, reference information here. And this is the key thing here, is that I can start pulling out from here. These are quotations from the actual, as you can see there, and it's all hyperlinked, even with diagrams here. That you can start pulling out, and you can do the same thing if you don't have the actual PDF. So you can see here, there's a quote you can write out, and I should add, just when we bring this in, if I show you here this particular here, you can actually have a core statement, and that will also come into NVivo. But the real cool thing about Citavi is that you can start organizing an outline of what you're going to talk about, and you can see here, linked to that outline are all the bits and pieces that relate to that thing, topic area. So what I'm going to do here is that you can see here, I have a little button, share with NVivo. So I will start sharing with NVivo. And I should say that you can also collaborate in real time with a colleague down here. I haven't done it now, but you can see at the moment it's just me. And once it's shared, you get this message that this project's ready to be accessed in NVivo. So if I go into NVivo, I'll just do it in the same project. So I'll add from Citavi. So you can see here, this is the list of projects that I've just shared, and I'm an hour behind because I'm in the UK, but you can see I've just done that. And then I can select all or just some, and I can, these are all the ones that have PDFs, and what I'll do is I'll just bring everything in. And also I can bring in some of those categories, or I'll just bring in all of them, and I'll just confirm. So, right, so I am bringing in, and just to say that from Citavi, I was using the desktop version of Citavi, but with a cloud project. So obviously this just works with cloud projects, but I could also have done the same thing with Citavi Web, which, because it's a web application, it is in the cloud as well. So I'll just wait for this to complete. Right, so it's completed. It gives me a summary, and now it will pop up. So you can see here that it's created a folder for the references. And so here are the references all here. And so both the PDFs and the references without PDFs come in the same folder called references. And if I want to I'll just open up this PDF here just to show you what it's done. And what I can do here is, remember if I showed you those core statements, they come in as annotations in NVivo, and the direct quotations, that's the actual quotes, they come in as codes. You can see here. And if I use the core statements, that's really like a summary that I created, and I can just jump, by using that, I can just jump to, yeah, so that definition here of crime vulnerability that I jumped to. So what comes in as coding in the PDF here, you can see is those direct quotations that I created in Citavi. If you notice, all the PDFs have a memo linked with it, and if I open the linked memo, what that comes in, that brings in the abstract, but also it brings in any comments I had made on the actual PDF, any indirect quotations. So indirect quotations are sort of like short summaries instead of taking a direct quotation, and summaries are longer stuff here, and they're also coded. If I had attached them, if they haven't been attached to a category in Citavi, they'll go into a code called no categories, like that one here. And if you can see here that the see also links, so here if I want to see like where in the PDF did I make this summary, I can just click on the see also link, and the PDF will open at that point there. So that link is maintained. And if I look at any references where I didn't have PDF, like this European Commission thing here, you can see here, if in Citavi I had the hyperlink to it, I have access to it, so I can access that report from within NVivo. I didn't put in an abstract there, but you can see here the direct quotations, and if I had made any comments or indirect quotations would be in there. And, they are also all coded. So if they'd been linked to a category in Citavi, they would be in a code. So like this piece here has been called recent cases, whereas these pieces were created as direct quotations, but they weren't linked to any category in Citavi, so they're in a code in NVivo, which is called no categories. So if I go into codes, you can see that it's create a separate folder for my Citavi codes, and here they are all here together. And if I go in here, I can see basically what quotations or indirect quotations have been coded to it. Now, to take advantage of the power of NVivo, now that it's all in here, if I go back to like Manning's PDF down here, right here, I can, obviously do a word cloud here. And, get an overview of what Manning is talking about in here. And once that's done, I won't do it again because Merritt just showed you that from the word cloud, I can go into a word tree. And so here I can see that she's talking, this whole project is about food crime and food adaptation. And so I can see here there's stuff on risk, on safety, on food fraud, and obviously I can continue to explore that because I can run a text search for fraud and get it, and really dig in deep here. I won't do that. I just want to show you something else I can do. I might want to be able to compare this document, this article by Manning with another document here. So I'll just do it with Spink here. So I can see here in the middle is, they have in common talking about definitions of food crime and about food defense, but you can see here that Manning talks more about terminological differences and Spink and Moya talk more about food safety and enforcement and prevention and that sort of thing. So that gives me a quick snapshot of that. I can do a cluster analysis to group them together. I know we're running out of time, but another thing I can do is I can do a crosstab to look at patterns, let's say by year of publication, to see whether there's any trends in terms of over time, whether some topics are more popular than others. So, here I can look at various trends about, let's say, okay, so cases of food fraud, food's most susceptible, and regulation, and what does it say, enforcement, whatever, and just run that. And I'll just transpose that. And again, there isn't that much coding here, but again, you can start to use NVivo's tools to look at patterns over time as an example.